Today we have Dr. Jessica Jones, who hails from Richmond, Virginia. Currently, she is a human systems research scientist for the United States Navy. Dr. Jones received her Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science and a minor in Leadership Studies from Hampton University. She has a Master's of Science in Computer Science with a concentration in interactive computing from Clemson University and a PhD in human-centered computing from the University of Florida. Currently in her role at the U.S. Navy, her research is none of your business. So we'll talk a little bit about it, but that's all you get to know for right now. Some other claims to fame are that Dr. Jones is the creator of CodeIT Day, which is a program that introduces middle school students to computer science through robotics, while also providing them with examples of diversity in computing through its program staff. And she is the technology chair for her chapter of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated in her area. Notably, Dr. Jones has had several internships. I guess she was always away like every summer because there's a lot of places here, including being a part of the People and Robots Lab at Carnegie Mellon, a member of the First Bold Practicum program at Google, and a part of the NASA LARC internship program at Langley. She is also connected to a recent guest we have, so if you were listening to that long bio of places where she's been, Hampton and Clemson are something that she shares with Marie Durrell, who we talked to on the podcast episode that you'll be able to listen to, after this if you haven't already. So let's thank Dr. Jones for joining us today and taking time out of her schedule to be a part of this. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, y'all. Hey, Jessica.
How you doing?
So did you know our season 5 other guest, Marie, who has the similar schools as you, Hampton to Clemson?
Yes, I did. And I do. That was an interesting story. I was at Clemson when Marie and a few other students were still at Hampton, and they were coming to visit Clemson. And so I was the kind of a liaison. And so I had to get, I think it was about 6 people from the airport to my apartment in Central South Carolina. So
Who
at the
asked
time,
you to do this?
I don't know. Okay, so everybody else was gone. Nobody else could help me drive. I had a Chevy Cobalt at the time.
Okay.
And so I had to fit all of them and their luggage in my Chevy Cobalt. And we were gonna try to make it all happen in one go round. And so we struggled to fit. We lapped up. I think we still ended up having to lap up. Like somebody was laying across people's lap on the back seat. And then I still had to go back and get more people. So it was, we had a time that night. We had a time.
I am so concerned.
And then we went to go get ribs and chicken from that. I can't remember the name of that one place in Clemson. It was amazing.
Gosh.
But I was like, y'all, we cannot get pulled over.
No.
Somebody was laying on somebody's lap in the back of
And
my
they would
Cobalt.
never believe this is a graduate school visit.
Right.
Like
This
y'all are
is
laid
your-
across laps with luggage.
Yeah. So that was a funny story about that.
Well, they still ended up coming. So, I mean, it couldn't have been all bad.
Guess it wasn't all bad. I mean, maybe it was the ribs that hit, but being 7 deep in my Cobalt was not it. Was
I
not
don't
it.
know if I would have been like, this is ghetto.
Take me
I
back.
can't be here.
I don't think Uber was like as prevalent back then as
No.
it is now. I don't think it existed. So it's not even like you can choose to have your own ride. It's like, well, you're going to deal with this.
I pay for a cab on a college student's stipend money or slide over, get them hips.
Why
in the
were
back of
these
that
the
Cobalt.
only two options?
Everybody else was gone. I don't know why I was the only person in Clemson with a car that day that could get them students to that hotel.
It was not close. Like the airport
No.
was like a good 30, 40 minutes, I feel like,
Yes.
from the university. It was
Yes.
not close.
No. So yes, we do have that connection, and I'm glad Marie decided after that to still come to Clemson.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is hilarious.
Marie
So
mentioned
before
nothing
you,
about that.
no, he did not. I know, where was Juan? He could have at least got another car or something for somebody.
Right, rent me a truck or something.
Yeah,
A
one of those
van?
passenger vans, right?
Like we on a youth trip or something. Back them all in the. Okay, sorry.
Oh, man. So before you became this top secret research scientist for the Navy, we're interested in like early Richmond. Like, how was growing up for you? Like, did you always know you wanted to be in the sciences, or you always, did you know or think that this could possibly be a path?
Absolutely not. I was always into the sciences and STEM, but I was going to be an astronomer or an archaeologist and an astronaut. So,
Oh, all of them. Okay.
yeah. So I was very much into space. I still really am. And kind of the science and things that we don't know about the past or the future and stuff. So, I was a kid who would ask for a telescope for Christmas, and I got it one year. I asked for a microscope kit so I can like make slides, go outside and put stuff on the slides. And,
Oh my gosh.
look at stuff. I don't know what I did with it. There was this program called the Middle Passage where we would go to a local community college, and we could learn about like soldering and circuits and engineering and stuff. And I didn't want to do that at all. And I was good at math and science, but those were not my favorites at all. History and English were my favorite subjects. So I was going to be in STEM, but not in computing. It wasn't even on my radar until high school, until 8th grade, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So in 8th grade, I was in the gifted program, and you know how they have those aptitude tests. And so I took it, and I was like, it's going to say I should be an astronomer or an archaeologist. But it said I should be a zoologist. That was another one, because I'm interested in like weird animals.
What are weird animals?
So like there's an animal that has stripes and fur like a zebra. So it's like look like a zebra on the back and a horse on the front, but it's like I can't think, it's like OKAPI or something. And then like the platypus is like, you know what I'm saying? Why is that even a thing? Why is it even here? So I'm interested in stuff like that. So it said I should be a zoologist or a computer scientist. I don't know what I answered that made it give those two things. And so when I was picking my classes for high school, they didn't have zoology at my high school. I went to Monacan High School, but they did have computer science. So I picked the class, and that's how I was introduced to computer science. I walked in the class that day, and with my friend, because she also decided to take the class, and we walked in together, and it was a bunch of boys, and I was like, oh, no, I'm not.
Here we go.
But then I kind of looked around the corner, and standing at the board was Miss Robbie Crisp. I was like, oh, okay. And then we sat down and we started doing like the logic sheets and stuff. And I was like, I'm good at this. And so I took computer science all 4 years of high school. I took AP computer science, did not pass the AP test. But that's what led me into computer science. But up until that point, that day in 8th grade, I was going to be an archaeologist and an astronaut.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. I mean, I've seen an okapi.
Yes.
They have them at Animal Kingdom. So,
Oh,
fun fact,
do.
if you do the safari, you'll see some out there. Because I was just there like a little bit ago. But
Okay. I remember like being in 3rd grade, and I was seeing a picture, and I was like, why is this even a thing? Or why?
nobody knows why it's a
I don't understand
Kind
this.
of genetic mutation or something.
But I was like, but I want to know.
Kyla just
Great.
copied and pasted one into our notes for her personal reference.
Just in case, you never know when you might need a picture of an okapi.
Like
You never know.
my 8-year-old self was just amazed. And then, so I that's what I wanted to be, not no computer scientist.
Makes sense.
That definitely makes sense.
But I could
feel
see
like a lot of people-
archaeology and like the space situation connecting really well. Like if I'm an astronaut, like I could dig up some stuff and Maybe there's an ancient civilization
I
on
believe
a
that's
planet
true.
somewhere.
I believe that's true. We're not going to talk about it, but
Okay.
I believe that's true.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm just surprised that there were two completely different fields that it said you would be good at. Like, it's not like it said computing and mathematics, things that are kind of related.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't like being outside. I don't like bugs.
Me either.
So being an
I'm not an outside
archaeologist
person.
would not be great. And so I think I like something that I like being in the office and I'm analytical. And I think the analytical piece and the solving problem pieces and figuring out things, I think that's where the overlap is. But I have no idea. But if Monacan High School had a zoology program, I would be a totally different person today because I would not have taken computer science.
So then you took CS all 4 years and you said, okay, I'm good at this. I want to do this for college. So then you landed at Hampton, which wasn't too far from Richmond. But yeah, what was that process like choosing where you wanted to go to college?
So in that, there was also another program. My mom had me in all the programs. And so there was another program at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, where it was an engineering program because by that time I did well in math and science, even though they weren't my favorite. So they put me in all these programs. And they took a college tour. And one of the places we went was Hampton University. Now, there's a rumor that there's a weather machine at Hampton University. So when students come for tours, the sun has never been brighter. The skies are never bluer. The water never sparkles more than when students are there on a tour. The grass is never green. So I got off the bus and I said, now, wait a minute. Now, this was maybe in 7th grade. The students were so welcoming. The campus was beautiful. And I was like, I don't care what I'm majoring in. This is where I'm going. So I only applied to one school, Hampton University, and I applied early decision.
Oh, wow.
So by like October 15th of my senior year, I knew where I was going. So whether I majored in computer science or not, I was going to Hampton. And so it just so happened that they had a computer science program. So the two were not related at all. I was going to Hampton.
Wow.
You would have figured it out.
I'd have figured it out.
It wouldn't have been archaeology. But
I'd have majored in biology and something else to be a zoologist. So,
Okay.
but yeah, the two were not related, but we had a great, Dr. G. Muhammad is still the computer science chair there. I reached out to her after I got accepted. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about majoring in computer science. This is what I've done. Should I major in math or should I take this leadership program? She was like, hey, do leadership. Don't you get enough math. And I'm glad she told me that because linear algebra got me right with God. So I never prayed as much as I prayed that semester. And so, yeah, that's the two weren't related, but I'm glad that they came together in a way, because I think Hampton very much prepared me for, graduate school at both Clemson and Florida. The hardest class I've ever taken in my life was CSE 252 Data Structures 2 taught by Mr. Robert Willis. His curve was a straight line. And he drew it on the board.
Like, oh, y'all. Just...
And if we all failed, then we all failed. And we did.
Man.
We passed the class, but that first test, the first program, and I got like a 12. I was like, oh, maybe this is not.
Humbling.
I took computer science all 4 years of high school. And I got a 12, Mr. Willis.
Right. Right. So you just said, I just need to just stop and turn around.
And I got a 12 because he was having a good day.
Oof.
So, but yeah, Hampton, I think very much prepared me for, everything I've done since then. We didn't play no games. It was very, and I learned one of the things you hear about HBCUs are they really going to prepare you education wise for the next steps? And I learned that I was very much prepared. I had a professor at Clemson actually during my master's, very surprised at how well I was doing in his class. And he asked me, where did I go for undergrad? And I said, Hampton University. He was like, I never heard of that. And I was like, yeah, it's an HBCU. And you could see him not try to keep his face pretty straight, but I'm very glad that I made that decision.
Aw.
Wow. Man,
Well, we know you're a very proud alum
I
of
am.
Hampton, and I think it's clear that you were very much involved outside of just your classes. So could you talk about like some of the things that you did while you were there that kind of helped support what you were doing?
Yeah, so our department chair, her goal is that we all get out and do internships starting freshman year. So freshman year, I was interviewing with Goldman Sachs and a bunch of other companies. And I was like, I'm not going to no Goldman Sachs. That's in New York. So another funny story. My parents got a call without me knowing to come to Hampton to talk to the department chair. Because I said, I'm not going to nowhere.
what?
Because, we were talking about internships. And at this point, I had never been on a plane. I had been to like Florida and Georgia, but that's pretty much it. I hadn't been anywhere outside of Virginia. And I was like, I'm not going to I've been to New York before, but I was like, I'm not going to New York City. At that point, Goldman was kind of recruiting me hard. And so
expression you made.
New York City.
I'm not taking fair. No. So my parents got a call to the department chair's office. And recently I asked my mom, what did you think that call was about? She said, I don't know. I said, you thought I got pregnant or something? She was like, I didn't know. And the department chair said, Jessica's going to be applying for internships. She might go to New York. She might go to California. She might go to Kalamazoo, but she's not going to Richmond. And my mom said, yes, ma'am.
I mean, I've never seen that much involvement with parents on the collegiate setting. Like, we had something like that with Meyerhoff, but like the fact they were like, look, you're not about to hold her back. She is going to go out and explore. And they were like, okay.
Yeah. And I hadn't even told my parents about any of this.
Wow.
And so now my mom is like, why you got this lady thinking I'm telling you can't go nowhere. You going wherever she send you. And so now the two of them are in cahoots.
Not cahoots.
Yeah. And so I also told Dr. Mom Hampton was expensive. So I told her that, after first semester, I said, hey, if I don't get some help, I can't stay. And so she got me, I was a tutor for the department because I really didn't need CS 101. I had taken AP computer science. So I was a tutor. I did research with some of the biology professors. That's what got me into research, that conversation and her saying, okay, well, we can get you on some programs to do research for some other professors. And so that I was on the robotics team, undefeated. You just gotta throw that in there. They changed the rules so that 4 seniors couldn't be on the team together our senior year, because we had one every year up to then, as part of the artsy robotics program, which was a great program. It got students to not only network outside of their school, but it got us to do something outside of our classwork and to kind of introduce us to robotics, which is something I really loved. And so, yeah, I was very much involved in the department outside of my classes.
So did you ever think about combining like computer science with zoology, or was that just like two different worlds?
So by then I was kind of over it. I was into computer science. I was like, I don't really need to know about no Okapis no more. But I was still very much interested in space and still wanting to be an astronaut. But I think I was kind of at that point focused on computer science, and I didn't know what I would do after graduation, really. But I assumed I would go work for one of the big banks.
Wow, because of your experience with Goldman, or just
after my freshman year, they were like, "Hey, come on!" But I ended up going to the People in Robotics program at Carnegie Mellon, which I loved. And then the next summer, I was supposed to go back to Goldman, and then Google called. And then the next summer, I was supposed to go. I was going to interview and try to go again, but then NASA Langley called, and I'm not going to tell NASA no. Well, it was a scholarship program that came with an internship, so I wasn't going to turn that down. So I just, at that point, I didn't know where. I thought I was just going to end up back at Goldman because they had pursued me, but I really wasn't sure what what would happen after graduation.
Okay,
Somehow after graduate.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Right. We're like, magically.
Magically, you end up at Clemson.
So I was ACM president at Association for Computing Machinery at Hampton my senior year. And we had a professor come and talk about grad school. So because I was ACM president, I was kind of talking to him and, I kind of showing him around. And once again, Dr. Muhammad said, go tell that man you want to go to graduate school.
Not go tell the man.
I said, I don't know.
Go tell the man.
Go tell that
Need
man.
to go see a man about a school.
Yeah. So I was like, I knew about PhDs and I knew about graduate school, but like I thought I was done with school. But I mean, I went and told him I wanted to go to graduate school. He was like, okay, well, you can come down to Clemson and you can see the lab.
Oh, so this was Juan again.
Yes, that professor was Juan Gilbert. And so within the next couple of weeks, I was maybe a month at the most, I was in Clemson getting a tour of the lab. That's where I was introduced to that great, those ribs and wings that I got. That's how they got me. And I was introduced to a lot of the folks there. I applied, not thinking I was going to get in, not intending to go. That's a key. Yeah,
that's really what it is.
But I got in and I told my grandmother, hey, I got into graduate school to get my PhD. And so she said, your grandfather would be so proud, Dr. Jones. Aww. My granddaddy was dead. So how you gonna put?
She pulled the card.
She put dead granddaddy on it, and so I was like,
"You gotta do it now."
I gotta do it. I had no intention. But again, with the push from Dr. Muhammad and kind of the guilt trip from my family, it was the best decision that I could have ever made. If I hadn't, without that push, my whole trajectory would have been different, because I was not going to tell that man I wanted to go to graduate school. I was not.
You were just going to be there for the little talk, show him around, and say, all right, goodbye.
Yep.
It sounds like you were in Dr. Muhammad's office a lot.
I was. She was we had a very small department at Hampton. In our class, there were only six people that started out as freshmen with me, and 4 of us graduated.
Wow. So
it was a very small class, and we got to know each other a lot. And because the 4 of us were on that robotics team with Dr. Muhammad, it was a very, very close-knit group. And she took ownership of not just our educational trajectory, our futures. For a long time now, even though it's a small department, I think it's still a great thing to say that I think her placement rate is like over 98% for graduating seniors. So
we should have her on.
She's little, but she is a powerhouse. And she's like, we're not just going to settle. She wants everybody from the A student to the C student to be able to get out there and go somewhere. And she is fantastic. I would say she is fantastic. Aww. But yeah, and you weren't gonna say no.
Yeah,
it wasn't a request that I go tell that man I wanted to go to grad school.
So now you're at Clemson in South Carolina. You checked off a new state that you've been in / lived in. What was that like working in that lab?
Oh man, it was Hampton Part 2. So Hampton is an HBCU. The B is for Black. So when I got into the HCC lab, as it was called at the time, and I walked in, and when it was full of Black people, and I was like, oh, and it was mostly women, which was the same as the department at Hampton, and so it was an easy transition for me. And so I came in with a student from North Carolina A&T, and he and I think we had met before at Artsy or something. And so but just to see the group of people in there, it was a pretty easy transition for me. At that point, I wanted to combine to do something with robotics in education. So I was kind of figuring out how I could make that happen. But it was a very easy transition, and I really, really liked Clemson. Richmond, when I grew up, was a small town. It's becoming more metropolitan and fancy now. But it had that same kind of small town feel, and I really liked the town. And so just being in a lab kind of was a good extension for me, a good transition.
You are one of very few people who have said that they like Clemson, South Carolina. And I can say that because I feel like at this point there's around 20 individuals that I know who came through Clemson.
That's a good point.
So I think that's really an interesting thought. Where are you now?
Now I'm in Richmond now, south of Richmond.
So you went back.
Yeah.
To similar vibes. Okay.
Yeah, for temporarily, yeah. But I'm not a big city kind of person. I'm more of a small town, slower feel. So Clemson was my vibe. I didn't need much. It was a very good pace for me. Florida was a little much for me. Even though it's still a college town, it wasn't.
It's a small town.
No.
It is.
It was a lot for me. I adjusted, but I really like that small kind of quiet southern.
So funny to me.
Southern feel, and Gainesville didn't have that.
I would say Gainesville shifted. It was like transitioning while y'all were here and becoming a larger city than, like, I used to refer to it as a town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And now, I feel like maybe I guess it can be a city because there's different sides of Gainesville and suburbs of Gainesville. So I feel like it's there now. But
yeah,
I'm from Orlando. This is
that's
not
too
a
much.
city to me.
Yeah, I like a little the small town feel. Couple traffic lights. I don't need a lot going on. Hustle and bustle.
Couple traffic. You want Mayberry, like the westerns.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at it. Like I am in the process of, fingers crossed, buying a home. And when I was looking, I'm like, I don't want to be in the thick of nothing but some trees.
Not the thick of nothing.
Like, give me some space, give me some wilderness, give me some, the
girl who doesn't like insects, but okay.
Yeah, but see, they don't be inside.
Okay.
Yeah, they be outside. I'm thinking you ever fly when you're on the plane and you're close enough to the ground where you can see houses and stuff, and you see random houses in the middle of all of this forest, and I'd be who in the world wants to live there? Now I know who.
That's
Jessica.
me.
But circling back to your time at Clemson, inquiring minds would like to know exactly when did you start hating Tiffany?
Oh my God! See, this is why I wanted to come
if you don't.
No.
And if you don't know, if you haven't listened to Dr. Tiffany Smith's episode, she says, and I'll let you give the spiel of what she said.
So she claimed that, when she came into the lab, we were rude to her. We didn't talk to her. First of all, Tiff and I are from the same place. We probably cousins. We just don't know it yet. But so when she came so I was the last new person to come into the lab. So, new person, we could have been cool. But Tiff just came in there with, I'm not talking to nobody. I'm just going to sit here. And I was like, oh, well, let me stay to myself. I'm just gonna sit over. I was trying to glean from Dr. Quaisha Martin Hammond at the time, and Tiff, she was just doing her own thing. So that's the response to that.
Well, funny story. We have Tiffany here, and she can help clear up the air about what really happened when she joined the lab. So, Tiffany.
This is what happened. Like Jessica said, I was I was the newest lab member. I think it was 3 years since anybody had joined the lab. And so, or 2 years, whatever. But when I came in, Amber Solomon, shout out to Amber. She was the only person who spoke to me. That's it. I had to make friends with Clemson Nesby because Clemson BGSA because my own lab mates refused to be my friends.
See, this is storytelling. I won't say you're telling a lie. You're
telling a fib?
You're fibbing and you're telling the story. So Tiff just walks into baby Tiff just walks into the lab and she just sits there. Don't say nothing to nobody. Just sit on.
Did y'all say anything to me?
That's besides the point.
Exactly. That's the point. No one gave a welcome or anything.
We did welcome you. We bought you ribs and wings.
Oh.
I didn't even get these ribs. I heard you talking about it. I didn't get no ribs and wings.
You didn't get no ribs and wings.
Well, nope, the welcoming committee just fell off when I joined.
See that maybe you got a point there because you didn't get no ribs and wings. So, what did you do?
I came in and sat down because I didn't know anybody. And like I said, Amber, the only one that spoke, and I thought PJ was gonna speak too because he was from A&T, but
PJ was the person who
Amber
came in
Solomon.
as far as my cohort from A&T. I don't know, but you just came in act like
Amber
you
held
didn't
it
talk
down.
to nobody. But then when we got
Amber
to Florida,
held it down.
we were friends.
This is when y'all became my friend at Clemson. Jerome Dunbar had a party. Him and PJ started being my friends like a month before we left. And then Naja Mack, Dr. Mack, shout out to her, Morgan State.
Shout out to Naja.
We ended up living down the street from each other. And so then we became friends. Not till we got to Florida.
I don't remember being invited to that party, so we're gonna have to talk about this off. So stuff is coming out, and so now we're gonna have to talk about this offline because
you probably would have blamed it on the non-existent Banks, even if you did get an invite. You weren't gonna show up because of Banks, who wasn't born.
Quick story. So whenever anybody would ask me to do anything, I would say I gotta go let my dog out. I didn't have a dog until 2 weeks before we left Clemson.
Wow. So you had this imaginary dog. That was an excuse the time.
Wait. So she was using an imaginary dog? Like there wasn't a.
And then when she got a dog, Banks really was her excuse. And even though Banks was lazy, Banks didn't need her at all. Not as much as she acted like she did.
Yeah, it was. I would say I did not have a dog at all in Clemson.
All of Clemson thought you had it. You had one.
Yes.
So what made you make good on the dog lie? Like, because you just could have kept going with it. Like, there's no need to bring an actual dog into this lie.
I think we know all we need to know at this point because she literally just blamed Tiffany and said that she lied. Well, told a fib, told a story. And now we're hearing there was an entire imaginary pet.
Somebody is going to watch this and say, she told me that she had to go walk that dog. Back in August of 2013.
Allegedly.
No, I had no dog.
Oh my God.
I had no dog.
Oh my God.
We see who was storytelling. Well, and now we see everything came out.
I feel like I learned a lot today. Okay.
But we need an upswing for this story. So eventually y'all became friends.
Yeah.
Yep, we did. Mm-hmm. And we should have been friends, like she said. Both from Richmond. We probably are cousins.
Yeah.
HBCU love. There was a lot of reasons we should have been friends, but we weren't.
We were not.
It was that dog.
Yeah.
Poor Banks.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Thank you.
Air has been cleared.
Yeah.
For now.
I appreciate it. Are we ending on good terms? Y'all are still friends today, right? So
we are. I'm gonna see you when I come home for Thanksgiving.
Oh,
we gonna link up.
Yeah,
that's so sweet.
I'm cooking this year, so you gotta come get a plate. Well, I cooked last year too.
I will.
You gotta come get a plate. So my grandma can tell you how her grandma and your grandma is cousins, and then it'll be all
now Alberstein.
So Roy Dell
and Celestine.
They were sisters. Roydell and Alberstein, my grandmother, and Roydell and Alberstein grandma. See, they were sisters. So that makes me and you want to.
Right. 17th cousins, 3 times removed.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Y'all should do like that. Y'all ever done the ancestry DNA test or something and see if you pop up on each other's trees?
I haven't. I'm sure
My
we
grandma
can.
has
We
done
can.
it.
So
Yeah, but it's hard to grow up in Richmond. It's bigger now, but it ain't that big. It ain't that
yeah.
big for us to be. Is more than 3 degrees. Well, no, we already found 1 degree of separation. My cousin. Didn't you go to prom? So we ain't gotta say the name. Didn't you go to prom or something with somebody?
With your cousin?
Because my uncle died, and you was like, he said R.I.P. uncle. You was like, oh, is that the same uncle? Because you knew him. I'll text you.
The one who a pastor?
Yeah, his brother.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. Okay, yep.
So we already have the degrees. We already
We
know
got it.
where-
It's right there.
Where the intersections
Now,
are.
yeah.
We got to kick Tiff off before this
This is
derails further.
hilarious. But Tiff,
Sorry.
we're so happy you joined us. I know
Thanks
you're
for having
enjoying your
me.
weekend.
Bye.
I see y'all
Go
later.
Hampton beat the Aggies.
So I'm glad that we were able to set the record straight here. But let's get back to you in Clemson and the work that you were doing. So you were talking about how you wanted to kind of marry the robotics side of what you were doing with computer science education. And that sounds a lot to me like CodeIT Day. So how did that come about?
So we were trying to figure out an event to do for Day of Code. It's a day every year where you're supposed to focus on introducing people to computer science and things like that. But we were also leading the I don't think it was called ACM, but whatever the graduate student computer science organization was at Clemson at the time, we were trying to do something with that. And so I thought about why not host like a weekend camp for kids to introduce them to computer science. My mom did that a lot when I was a kid, hosting camps for kids to do stuff. And so we just came up with the idea. We got funding from the graduate student government and from the department and from Dr. Gilbert. And we came up with the curriculum. We learned about Makey and We Do and Lego Mindstorms. And we kind of put together what we thought would be fun for middle school students. We sent out applications to all the schools. And it eventually got to some homeschool communities, which we didn't think about. There was an application and the students had to let us know what they wanted to learn. We didn't require grades or anything. Because we didn't want, sometimes a lot of these programs are only steered to the top students, but we wanted to get everybody. And our goal was to not only introduce them to computer science, but to show them, you know, who a computer scientist is or what they look like. So, I talked about earlier, the HCC lab at the time was very black. But it wasn't just HCC lab members. We got people from other labs at Clemson. So we had a lot of women, a lot of, black and brown students to come and be teachers and instructors and facilitators because we started at like 8 and we went to 5. So we gave them breakfast, lunch, and a snack. So they saw all different kinds of people who were computer scientists throughout the day. And it was a really good program. It grew from one day with about 25 kids to when we were leaving Clemson, 2 days with about 40 kids each. So it was a really, really good program.
That's amazing.
And we definitely want to like continue it as well because we're putting together this plan now, like for broadening participation in computing. And National Science Foundation basically said anyone who gets a grant from them, that's like a medium to large, like basically if we're giving you a whole lot of money, you need to put forth a plan in your department to broaden participation.
Nice.
So I wrote the plan for our department and I was like, CodeIT Day is in there. So whoever gets a grant needs to kick some money to CodeIT Day so we can keep it going because I had been talking to our chair about, whatever happened to CodeIT Day, it was so awesome. And he's like, money. So I'm like, oh, is that the problem? So we shouldn't shouldn't have to like let people suffer and not be exposed to computing just because of money. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm hoping to see some of these grants roll in and we can revive it. Maybe we have you come back or something. That would be cool.
That would be cool. Because like I said, we started off with Lego Mindstorms and Lego We Do and Makey. And by the time we left, we had kids programming now robots how to do the Macarena. So it really,
I was watching the videos. I was like, we need this.
Yeah, they loved it. They also had not heard of what the Macarena is. It was a foreign concept to them. So we're telling them, hey, make it do the Macarena. And they're like, excuse me? Beg your pardon?
Right, so now I got to learn how to code and learn what a Macarena is.
Yeah, but it was so cool to see kind of the lights turn on. Because we not only teach them about, these are the robots, you're going to make it do cool stuff. We teach them, what a loop is, what an if statement is, so conditionals and branching. And so it was really cool to see how putting together some Legos and then when their robot moves, the excitement and the sense of accomplishment. And then to see them struggle and be like, we're not going to be able to do this. This is hard. And then to see it finally work, the sense of accomplishment and teamwork. We had them pair programming. So it was really about not just one person do it and the rest of us watch. Everybody got to have hands on with the material. So it was a very good program, I think. And I'm glad that it's coming back.
Did you ever do any research on it? Like collect any data?
Yes, we published maybe 2 papers about it I don't remember, but I know we presented twice. I can't remember if it was the same paper or 2 different papers about it. But I think there's a lot more there that you can, we would have loved to have tracked those students to see if their thoughts about computer science changed. We did kind of anecdotal, we did video clipping. So of the first one, I think at Clemson, we got a really cool video of kids talking about what they learned. But I think there's a lot there that you could look at. And even going into investigating how you pair students together. Because what we did is we tried to pair 8th and 6th graders together. And then have 7th graders together. And then one year we brought in 5th graders. And what we learned is the gap between 6th and 5th grade is too wide for us to have 5th graders in a group with 6th graders. 6th and 7th is okay. And even 6th and 8th is okay. But the gap between 5th grade and 6th grade is too big for us to expect the same kind of teamwork and progress. So there's a lot there from a research standpoint.
Yeah, I guess 5th is still elementary school technically. So
yeah. And we did it in the spring. I think if we would have done it at the end of 5th grade year, like in the summer, so they would have been transitioning into 6th grade, it might have been a difference. But in like February of their 5th grade year, I think that's too much.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, I got to participate in a CodeIT day once it moved to UF, and it was so much fun. Like, I have like a weird perspective of the lab as being like a graduate student in a completely different department, and like watching Clemson and what I refer to as the Great Migration, if you've heard me talk about it, when they moved to Florida.
I just feel like it's the image of us with like all of our earthly belongings on our backs, just like saddling through.
Sticking the nap in the handkerchief over your shoulder.
And we just...
Great Migration. But I remember one of the first things that people brought up about y'all was lab days, and they kept saying like, oh, y'all gotta watch this.
Yeah.
They're famous, they're on the internet, blah blah blah. And I was like, this is annoying.
You were like, who are these people? And make them sit down.
This is too much.
Lab days was great though. And I don't know, I think we got response from a kid in somewhere across the country saying they watched it and now they want to do grad school because they could see us interacting with each other. And then there's a funny clip.
Tell the guests what Lab Days is, because I don't think we've ever mentioned Lab Days on the show.
So Lab Days was a reality show based in the HCC lab at Clemson University. And so we had a student film crew following us, recording our meetings, recording, when we're walking around campus. Sometimes we went to college game day. It was just, we went on conferences and and they just followed us. And it was a really good look at how we worked together, the stuff that we did in the lab. There's a cool clip of Fran saying, "Don't come to graduate school. It's too hard." One day
I forgot about that.
This class is so hard. One day we got stuck in the lab in the middle of a hurricane warning. And so the cameras just kept rolling and we were just in the lab. But it was a kind of to give you a day in the life of a graduate student, to show kind of, you hear about graduate school and people doing research and writing papers, but what are you writing about? What does that even mean? And it kind of gave people a perspective, and us being a majority minority lab, majority women, majority Black African-American students. So it kind of was a window into what our lab was like. And it only lasted maybe like 6 episodes or something, but I think Lab Days
was iconic.
It was iconic.
Still the website is still up. I just looked it up, and it's like, check out CodeIT Day. On the Twitter, the last tweet is, check out CodeIT Day. Our lab is working with little future engineers of the world.
All I can
so
hear
we'll
is
link to it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So shout out to
didn't Takeda sing it?
Yes, singing the "We're used to early mornings and late nights, working on research, lab projects."
Yes.
Yeah. Changing the world, whatever it takes. Yeah, that was a jam.
Vibes.
So hearing that, coming with all of that, I guess that hype, I guess that could have been annoying. Or just like eye rolling.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't anything against y'all. It was just like, this is a lot. Like,
yeah.
When I try to describe to people how it felt as like watching a celebrity and like bringing their entourage into a space, right? But like for me, it was like, this is my space. And now I've got like a celebrity here, and it's all about them. Everything that they want, anything that they ask for.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't want no parts of this. I'm going to be in my lab, doing my work, living my life over here. But
there
then
is
I was
one
like,
episode. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, then I met y'all and I was like, oh, they're really nice. They're normal people. Okay.
We're normal people despite all of the hype that we came
I didn't
with.
associate with you with them.
Yeah, I wasn't one of the students, so I didn't get like all of the, I don't know, the hype that came.
Yeah, you
I was
didn't
gonna
get
say,
it all.
good. If you're especially bored, you can check out the link that we'll put on here. But there is an episode called "The McMullen Effect" that is all about Kyla McMullen, and it was funny.
I forgot about that.
It's a fun little episode. I go back to it from time to time because it's like so much has changed since then.
I love it. That leads us to Florida, right?
Yes.
So the celebrities showed up on our campus. They rolled out the red carpet. They literally, like, I don't know, like, got the biggest lab on campus. What was that like?
So I stayed behind at Clemson another semester to get my master's degree. Because when we were leaving Clemson, there was no HCC PhD at Florida. Mm-hmm. And even though it was guaranteed, it was going to become a PhD, I don't trust things that I can't control. So I was like, I need to have something. So I wanted to leave Clemson with a master's degree. So I stayed an additional semester. Shout out to Amber again. Shout out to Amber Solomon and Dr. Christina Gardner. I don't know if she was Gardner McCune at the time, who also stayed for that extra semester. And I got my master's degree. So when I got to Florida, I have family in Florida, so I was excited to move at that point, but it was really kind of I wasn't sure. But when I got there, because I was done with classes, so I had to take more classes. I had to redo my qualifying exam. And so I wasn't super happy about the move. But I did it because I knew that it was better to go with my advisor than to stay and find another advisor. So when I got there again, it was a larger city. I wasn't really feeling it. But it was, beautiful campus. What did Aretha say? Beautiful gowns.
Beautiful gowns.
So I did learn to like it there. Of course, my lab folks were there again. And so I kind of just fell back into the swing of being in the lab, just learning a new dynamic of Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that.
I don't know. I still wouldn't call it a big town. If you came back now, you'd probably be like, "What is this? A Whole Foods? Is this? Is that?" Like, there's even more Cheesecake Factory.
I went. They were building that whole little section near the Old Navy. They were updating that when I left. So yeah, it'd probably be totally different.
There's a sports complex now.
Oh,
it's not too far from the house.
Big things. The
Celebration Point was already, they were probably still working on Celebration Point when you left. Yeah, so
they had broken ground, I think, maybe. Yeah. So it was just another thing to get used to. I did have Banks. I did have a dog by that time. And so I think
on the dog thing.
Yeah. I had a dog. So it was a good, I guess, it kind of took me out of my comfort zone a little bit more because Clemson
in the background.
He's been, as soon as we started saying even though he couldn't hear Tiffany saying his name, he came downstairs as soon as he was referenced.
That's so funny.
And he's freaking out right now.
You like somebody
he's doing what that Okapi's doing. He's freaking out. So trying to get used to a new environment. It was definitely out of my comfort zone because it was a larger city. Like I said, I had kind of gotten used to Clemson, and it was far away from home. I could get to Richmond in like 5 hours if I did my good driving, and people could get to me. But Gainesville was a lot further. For my mom to get down there. So it was just a whole nother vibe. But I'm glad we did make the move. I will say this. Dr. Gilbert likes to say it was a surprise and no one knew it was coming. But myself and Naja Mack knew something was coming. So
I was in the lab the day he announced it to y'all. And I was like, oh, I gotta see this.
So we knew Naja and I were in his office at Clemson, and we had a feeling something was going on. I don't know if I should say where we thought he was going, but we thought he was going somewhere else. And so we were trying to figure out how to get it out. And so we were talking about recruiting and flyers. And so Naja, I don't know who said which part, but Naja and I kind of formed a sentence where it was basically, you're talking about recruiting for here or somewhere else. And I think even without knowing, I don't know. And so we didn't respond in the room, but as soon as we walked out, we were like, oh my gosh, something is coming. And not 2 weeks later, we had that meeting. And going, kind of stepping back a little, we didn't know what we were going to do at that time. So once the announcement was made, we kind of looked around at the faculty and was like, okay, he's going, but what are y'all doing? And I remember after that meeting, Dr. Daly, a bunch of us went to Applebee's on campus, and we were like, if you stay, we might stay. So but if you're going and he's going, we might go too. And I don't remember what was said, and I feel like now looking back on it, I feel like we put a lot of pressure on her because we were like, whatever you do, we're going to do. And whatever your decision is going to impact what we're doing. It was kind of a tumultuous thing because you're almost done and you're comfortable here. And then you got to go to a whole another place that doesn't have your major. You don't know anything about the department. the dean is bringing you in and all of these people. And then we had to apply. So I don't know if a lot of people knew that. We didn't just get brought over.
Not guaranteed. Right.
Yeah. We had to apply and get into university. So that was a whole nother thing. But like I said, when I got there, I was able to kind of get back into the flow of things. And it turned out to be great. I'm glad I decided to go.
Yay.
I just remember like the weeks leading up to Juan telling y'all, like random students would be like, Juan's being elusive about blah, blah, blah. What's happening? I'm like, it's not my place to tell you what your advisor is to tell you. And I'm like, this is the longest. I think we were like, I knew for like maybe a month beforehand. And like, as people would start to kind of catch on or notice stuff, I'm like, this is the longest month of my life. Like, you need to talk to these students because they know something's going on. They just didn't know what. They're like, oh, is he going to be the dean? Is he going to go over here? Is he going to go over there?
Yeah. We thought it was going to be somewhere else. And I don't know if I would have went there. I don't.
Yeah, I do remember the somewhere else rumor.
I don't know that I would have went. And then somebody else ended up getting a great position there. So it all worked out the way it was supposed to, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's so funny. We were recruiting someone to come in for mechanical, and he's one of my Meyerhoff brothers, and he will not let me live this down. He's like, y'all recruited me in the front door and left out the back door.
Oh, well.
Shout out to Oliver. We still love you.
Well.
That was great. That was a great time. Difficult, but a great time.
So what were you researching at Florida?
At Florida, my research was focused on literacy and reading. So I realized I was around a bunch of kids at a daycare center. And at the end of the day, the kids come together and they watch movies to get ready for pickup. And I heard, kind of not paying attention, somebody reading. And I was like, oh, one of the babies is reading to the other babies. But I turned and I looked, and it was not a baby that was reading to the other babies. It was an older kid. And I was like, this kid really is struggling to read. And it kind of impacted me in a way that I was not expecting it to. And so I started to do research into, what helps kids read. Why is it important for kids to be fluent readers by the time they go into third grade? And it's because when you get into third grade, you shift from learning how to read to reading to learn. So if you think back to third grade, you're reading textbooks and, reading, taking turns, reading passages and doing your homework and writing book reports. But so if you're not a fluent reader by that point, it's going to set you back. And so that one instance of hearing an older kid not being able to read kind of helped me figure out that I wanted to work on an intervention to help specifically African American kids become more fluent readers using culturally relevant pedagogy and using kind of the way we interact with the world and the way that we do things to kind of teach them. So call and response. In my dissertation, I use the example, how we do God is good. And then
all the time.
All the time.
God is good.
And how we can make a beat out of anything, and we learn things by tapping out rhythm. We just do it. It's a natural part of how we interact with the world, and by using culturally relevant stories. So, for example, if you teach, if you're using a story that has customs and concepts that a student doesn't understand, that's foreign to them, they're going to spend their time trying to figure out what these references are. And it's not that they can't comprehend it, they just don't know what you're talking about. So a lot of that time they might spend trying to understand what the story is about. First, they got to know what a synagogue is. If they don't know what that is.
I thought you were going to say a copy.
Hey, listen, third grade is when that a copy changed my world. So, that would have freaked me out if I had seen that in second grade. This doesn't say zebra.
Right.
So
I have no idea what
I got to know what this is. I got to look it up.
Yeah. Look it up in the dictionary. Yeah. And you have to start looking stuff up in third grade. If you can't figure out, if you're looking for a word and you can't figure out what the words in the definition are, you're going to be messed up. So that's what I was researching at Clemson. So figuring out how to build an intervention to help students, African American second grade students, read better. Shout out to, again, Sharon and Caring Learning Center. That's where I did my dissertation studies with those students. And it was a great, it was a great time. It was a struggle because kids are just going to do what they want to do. They don't want to participate, and we can't make them participate. A kid would say, I don't want to do this. Even if their parents signed the form, we had to get their assent. And the teacher would send them back and be like, oh, no, we can't. He said he didn't want to do it, so we can't make him. But then he hears what his friends were doing, working on the computer, playing games. Now he wants to do it the next day. I'm sorry, Johnny, you can't come back.
Right. So that's so stressful, like with your dissertation, like where your data relies on these little autonomous small people who are not rational.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds. And they were great.
Aww.
Yeah, so that was my research. I also worked on, Prime 3 voting software. Again, we continue CodeIT Day. And I did worked on a lot of other educational tools. Tiff and Naja and I, once we got over our beef,
we got to get Naja on too.
Hold on, wait.
To get the...
Is this the same beef? Is this the...
Oh yeah, this is the same beef. This is the same beef. Yes, this is the same beef. With the three of us, I know you talked to France, and I think that she mentioned the Cali crew. So we were kind of the ed tech crew, the three of us. We took, classes together. All three of our dissertation research surrounded educational technology. So we worked a lot together, and we, bounced ideas off. This is Banks still wanting to be involved. We bounced ideas off of each other. And we really became a tighter cohort once we got to Florida.
Okay, well, if I remember correctly, there's still like a part of this beef that we haven't uncovered fully that Kyla is unfamiliar with.
Yes.
I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yes.
And we might, I don't know if we want to bring Tiffany back on to discuss this thing, but I happen to remember that some of us found that we have a similar love for musical theater. And in particular, there were some discussions about The Wiz.
Yes.
Continue.
So I became sort of a leader in the lab, and I felt that it was my duty to expose all of the younger students to things that they may not have been exposed to elsewhere. So when I learned that an innocent young lamb had never seen the gem that is The Wiz, how could I call myself a leader and not show them the greatness that is Diana Ross and Michael Jackson easing on down the road? And so I turned it on in the lab, and then it played. And then some people thought that I should cut this educational experience
short.
What is wrong with these people?
They thought that it just was not worth it. They did not respect Black cinema and the arts. You would think somebody who was into dance and using socially cultural things to teach kids stuff
would be all about
would be all about it. But I guess, I don't know, they don't respect Black art like that, so I'm not. So I let it play the whole thing, and gave this student the opportunity to experience The Wiz in the lab, and so that is Wizgate.
So I have all the questions in the world, but I feel like there's two sides to this. So should we?
I really feel like there aren't two sides. Like, what I walked into the lab, it was on. Like, I watched what was on when I got there, but
and nobody was really
student was really upset. Apparently,
I don't know if they stormed out or what, but
it was distracting. In air quotes.
Our culture isn't good enough to be shown in the halls of the ivory tower,
The University of Florida.
trying to conform. But I'm black everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
All day.
So that was
So who is this
Wizgate.
somebody who didn't appreciate it?
This was a person who
Is it
has
someone we had on
said,
today or someone else?
somebody who has said erroneously that people were rude to them. I'm not going to call any specific names. Banks is freaking out.
It's because Banks is trying to escape, doesn't want to be a part of it.
No.
Banks is like, you called me here. Y'all called me.
Yeah, Tiff said his name and made him come down here. But yeah, that was Wizgate. But I did stuff like that all the time. I think I played something else. I can't remember what it was, but that was just the feel of the lab. Like, I think by that time, a lot of the OGs were gone. And it was a whole new crew, people who had never been to Clemson before.
Oh yeah, that's right. So that's when there's a shift in the lab. Folks, look who's back.
Interruption.
I just feel like that's not what happened. I feel like I supported us watching The Wiz because The Wiz is my top 5 favorite movie. So maybe you confusing me with another student, like some other people at UF, all the black people look alike. I think that's what's happening here. I shouldn't have said that, huh? Y'all edit that out.
Nope, it's staying. It is.
My bad.
It is.
But I think that's what's happening. I think it's a case of mistaken identity because I was a show choir kid. Why would I not approve of The Wiz being played?
I wasn't going to bring that up, but I just, because I didn't want to,
I don't think that was me. Honestly, I think you were confused with someone else of our same skin color. I support The Wiz at all times. So there's that.
You just had to set that
You
record
go see
straight.
it on Broadway? Kyla and
I did not.
No,
I want to though.
Go see it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I watch it every Thanksgiving morning.
It's on Netflix right now.
I
Still.
own it. I own it. I own it.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Well, I don't know how you got back on here, Tiff, but I appreciate the input on
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
No works in mysterious ways. We appreciate you
He does.
setting the record straight.
Once again, because obviously Jessica's in a lying mood today, so just gotta clarify some things.
And
Just gotta clear things up.
all right,
But I'm really gone
Tiff.
this time, guys. Bye.
Bye, Tiff.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. This episode is off the chain.
Off the rails. I'm sorry. Okay.
All right.
Okay, what were we
Yes.
saying previously?
No, we were just saying there was a shift in the lab because we had a whole new cohort who didn't know anything about Clemson. And so all of the leaders from there had kind of graduated already. And so it was Naja, France, and myself who were really kind of the new OGs of the lab. And by this point, France was at Intel a lot. So it's kind of up to Naja and I to kind of set the tone for what the lab, keeping the culture going and keeping the spirit of what we had kind of going in Florida. I mean, there were other people who were in Clemson that were there in Florida with us. But
they weren't spearheading the effort with
right. So that's kind of where some of those antics came from. I feel like maybe one time we did Melodies from Heaven when it rained once.
I could see that. I mean, when you said the feeling we once had, I was like, is this a Wiz reference? It is.
So that's where that came from. Because sometimes it can be kind of sterile. So you just gotta liven it up a little bit.
Yeah. I can see that. I'm thinking now, who was the last person to graduate who had been to Clemson? Was it
Tiff.
Yeah.
And she was only there for like a semester, so she's the last person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now it's a whole new culture, whole new folks. Yeah.
It's different.
They didn't have to migrate.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was hard kind of transferring that culture to people who hadn't seen it before. So it was like, why? Because we were like tight knit, and it was like, why are
Y'all had a
y'all?
whole reality show.
We had a reality show.
You can't like take the people who are on a reality show out of the context of a reality show. Like they're always
They done recast
that
it.
crew.
I don't like this
No.
new season.
Right.
And
Then like at Clemson, it was, we had to be very, we were very, very, very close, and we had to stick close together. And so, and then coming into a new environment is kind of, you know, you're going to stick with what you know and kind of stick with what's comfortable. And so I think that kind of like, and then when you get people who don't know why we're like that coming in, it's kind of weird.
yeah. Because not every grad program's like that. Like you don't see that kind of community and cohort, and people are like, "Whoa, they're coming in with their own community. What's going on?"
They were having parties together at each other's houses, going to tailgates, going
fish
to shows,
fries,
all of that.
We would have fish fries and play cards, and I think that could be jarring too for some people, because like, why they want to be all up in my space? But like, we legit liked each other, and we always wanted to be in each other's space anyway. Like we had a baby shower for Naja.
Oh yeah.
And it's just because we had that relationship. So I hope that you know, having kind of trying to continue that. I feel like it could have been a lot much for some people, but hey,
It is what it is.
It is what it is, and it was what it was.
Yeah, it was a special moment in time.
Like
it was definitely like, this was an era here, and you can't replicate it. Like you really can't.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that I got, you know, to see it and pretend to be a part of it for a little while.
You were a part. You were one of us.
It was so cute.
Yeah.
Once I was like, oh, they're not weird. They're normal people. Okay,
that's true. I forgot. I met you before you met all of them.
Exactly.
I got
so like,
you
were
that makes
not
sense.
them.
Yeah,
you were Kyla.
right.
Yeah,
and then there was, and I feel like that's probably something you appreciate too. Like,
yes,
Kyla,
but I'm not one of them.
Being Juan,
right?
Juan's Kyla.
I didn't get the brand. Yeah. Right. I don't have the, what do you call it? That hot brand that you put on cows.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have that stamp.
You're in your own world. Okay, so you graduate, and I guess like from my recollection, you were funded through a program that, you know, has a connection to like the federal government. Is that correct?
Yes, this is something I will talk about and something I would recommend. It's called the SMART program. So what it does is it pays for undergraduate and graduate degrees. It'll pay tuition, room and board, fees, give you a book and insurance allowance, and a stipend for undergrad and graduate. And each year you also get a paid internship to work with whatever sponsoring facility picks up your contract. So the facility that picked up my contract had a robotics program. And so that, going back to Hampton, that's where that tie was. And so they picked me to sponsor. They picked my contract to sponsor. And that's what paid for my education all the way up to the last 2 years of my program, because it's a 5-year max. And so I was a grad student who luckily never had to worry about funding. So when I graduated, I already had a job waiting for me, which was great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I was trying to convince one of my students to apply for it who's going to grad school, because it's a big commitment to make at a point in your life where you're like, hey, you know, I don't know what's next, but I'm also going to commit to something after this next step that I don't know what's next. Yeah. And so like, did you have any apprehension about that when you were going through the process?
So applying for it, yes and no. Again, I hadn't planned on going to graduate school, so I had never thought about how I was going to fund it. But I knew I always wanted to work somewhere where I can do good. I always wanted to work for NASA or for some organization that would allow me to help people. Now, people might ask, you know, working for defense, is that helping? Well, I had a childhood friend I know since maybe second grade, who went to the Navy. and stuff started happening, and I was like, now wait a minute, I can't do anything to help him or to protect him or to help make sure he's safe where he is, just as I am. But I know that I can work on stuff that could help keep him safe and that can help protect him and make his job easier. So when I go into work, I'm not thinking about anybody else, anything else. I'm thinking about my friend who is on a ship somewhere, and what can I do to keep my friend safe? And so that was kind of my drive. I had always wanted to work in the public sector, but when I was signing up for the SMART fellowship, this was all kind of happening at the same time. And I was like, this would be a way that I could help my friend. I've always wanted to work in this space. I didn't know necessarily know how or where or why, but maybe this is the why. Maybe I can work on things to help keep my friends safe. So there's some downsides. The starting pay is different in the public versus the private sector. But you can grow. I'll say that you can grow quickly. I am happy knowing that stuff that I do will impact somebody in a good way. I can work on things that, like I said, keep people safe. So it was a hard decision because I didn't know exactly what I would be doing, but I knew that the concept of what I was signing up for was something that I wanted to do anyway. So it's tough, but and it's only if you do a PhD, a 5-year commitment. So 5 years, you get your feet wet, and then you do something else.
So you're like beyond that. You could go and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'm a free agent.
Yes.
Okay.
So stay tuned. What kind of opportunities you looking for in case you want to throw some stuff out there?
My goal is to be. I like doing the tech. I'm the ideas person. So when we were working on our dissertation, Tiff and Naja and I and other people in the lab, we would have board days where we would go to the board and people would throw up problems and questions. And I'm really good at ideas. I was like, I'm solving all of y'all problems. I can't, and I'm working on my own dissertation. And so I'm a very good strategy and idea person. I'm good at executing too. But I'm really interested in kind of the strategy of figuring out what we need to do or where we need to be and what we need to do to get there. I'm trying to help us meet the needs of the people to help us get to where we want to be. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for.
So academia.
That's not what I said.
But minus I ain't hear say that, but minus the teaching part. Like I could see you at a lab where you don't. Yeah, doing the research scientist thing where, you have lots of good
academia.
ideas.
That's what I said. I didn't say.
That's true. You did say academia. You didn't say professorship. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, Tiff said adjunct, perhaps? No, so adjunct life is. I
have thought about teaching, like, just on the side classes. I applied to some community college just to, but they didn't get back to me, so.
And they don't pay.
It's like $4,000 a class.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Right. What you gonna do with that?
Absolutely.
That's your parking pass,
girl.
Well, no, I wanted to do it on the side, not full time. Like if I could teach an online class or something. But
the amount of work that it takes, it will take over your full time. It's a lot. They do not pay adjunct faculty at the rate that they should.
Yeah.
And until they do, I don't think anybody should adjunct.
It's a no.
I would do it for Hampton. I would do whatever they wanted me to.
Oh, that's
if they call me today.
I would say proceed with caution. It's one of those put up front how many hours this is going to take you, how much is your time worth per hour? Will you have greater help? Will you have, just what are the admin supports? Yeah, because you might not get a TA with adjunct. You might be grading everything, teaching the lesson, you're making the slides, grading the stuff, doing because it takes probably for me when I was first creating a class 3-ish hours for every 1 hour of content it would take just to make it. So once you get your slides together, it's not that 3 hours every single time, but it's a lot to start. It's a big initial push. There's a big initial push, but It gets better over time. But all that to say, they need to pay you your worth, girl. If you get a contract for adjunct, let one of us see it so we can make sure that everything's where it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And I think that's what I'm good at. Is the strategy piece. My goal is to one day be the NASA administrator. So I'm looking for things to kind of get me on that path. I love where I am now and what I do now. Not just saying that because I said I'm looking for another path, but the people I work with, the projects what I can say is that my job is kind of like a postdoc. I can look at problems and see the problems that I think I can figure out and address, and I can work on those things. And so I'm not just like put in a box. That's my dog. I'm sorry. And so I really, really like that aspect of it. I can kind of satisfy my intellectual curiosity and my desire to do the most good that I can. So that I think that's the best piece about, where I am now and the kind of work that I do now. I get to do a bunch of different things.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, postdoc life was amazing. And I don't think that I'll ever get to have that dream job scenario again. But it was a great time. It was the best of times. Yeah. And now being an assistant professor, I feel like what I learned as a postdoc was invaluable. And there are a lot of people who discount the postdoctoral stage. They say don't do it. It's a waste of your time, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like those people are in spaces or working with people and on projects that aren't beneficial to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Speak for yourself. It depends on who you're working with and how you align yourself.
So I'm happy to hear that you feel like you're in a good place and working with people who support you and want to amplify your work.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, it's a great place. I'd be willing to talk to your students about. There are people who go to places and they hate it, but you can change where you are. But I think I've been lucky twice because I'm not now where I started, but both places I've been, I would highly recommend.
Love that.
Nice.
Love that. Well, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you'd like our listeners to know?
One thing I've said to, and this is more serious, to students who are graduating, one thing a piece of advice that I've given people is I didn't expect to feel what I felt after I graduated. So my whole, college career, after I defended my dissertation. Okay. So we had CodeIT Day right after, the day after I defended. Who let me do that? It was the very next day. Who allowed that to happen? But I remember it being a blur, and CodeIT Day is my favorite thing. So I was really not able to engage in CodeIT Day because I felt like what I didn't know what was next. So my whole career, I've been waiting for this moment. And then when it happened, I was like, Jeremy, I think it was you and Tiff, actually. I was walking down the hall and I remember looking up down at myself, like I was an out of body
experience.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I wasn't expecting to, it was like a loss almost. What is next? I don't have a next thing to go for. I've been trying to get this degree my whole career. You finish elementary and you go to middle school and then you go to high school and then you go to college. Grad school wasn't something I was thinking about, but then, the next goal was to finish those things, but now I'm done. And then the other thing was my family is so excited and you did this and it's great. And then I'm like, people get PhDs every day.
No, they don't.
But when you're in the environment, it's people literally were getting PhDs in my circle every day. Yeah. So it was kind of normal in that space. So it didn't feel, I don't know what the word was, but like it took me a minute to get over that it like was not the ending of something. It was the beginning of something different. So advice I give to people finishing their PhD is it's okay to feel like, okay, now this is over. What do I do? But expect that may be something you need to expect, like to be okay with knowing that this portion of your life is over. You're no longer a professional student.
Yeah.
And so it's okay
it's very anticlimactic. Like you expect there to be fireworks and all this, and literally you walk into a room and people shake your hand and we say, "Congratulations, doctor."
We took that picture standing against the wall.
Yeah.
And we were in that conference room and I was just like, okay, I'm done. And it was just like so. And so
that's not like that at all.
What, yours was not?
No.
The whole world was at your defense.
Mine was like, I won a battle in the Coliseum. I went up against a giant.
I'm like, say something.
And
Say something.
I slayed them. Like, and it was like, the underdog won vibes for me.
Yeah.
So like I was in tears and other people were crying and like the dean came down the
Even
hall
Cammie
to
came.
congratulate
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like
I have that
nuts.
picture of y'all too.
I have photos of me like just like, oh my god, it happened. Like it was like a proposal, like a marriage.
Yeah, a marriage proposal
that you've been waiting on forever and ever and ever, and like you knew it was coming, but you were like in the back of your mind, there's a possibility it might not.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like that.
I was just like, now what? And then, like I said, I was literally thinking, people get PhD every day. And people were like, so excited. And I was like.
So you immediately went to, okay, this isn't a lot, the end.
She's like, all right, now what?
And I felt bad because I'm like, my family's so excited. And they saying I did this great thing. And I was like, I know 12 people who have a PhD right now. I didn't even really do anything.
Right, that's your normal.
And that's okay, right? Like, I feel like not everybody is going to be like, my life has changed and everything is wonderful and great, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I felt like that later.
yeah.
But like in the moment, I was just like, and so like I think I was confused about how I felt. And so I don't remember anything from that coded day at all.
It's real.
I mean, everything's a blur. Like, I literally defended and had a not recital. Yeah, we'll call it a grown-up recital the next day. So I immediately went to dress rehearsal. The performance was the next day. And then I got on a plane, like, had to, like, run out before the curtain call. Got on a plane and went to the Chi conference.
Oh, yeah.
And
So you
then
didn't
I was
have
like,
any...
I'm literally on the plane, like, in my costume, still on the plane, like, this has been a whirlwind. And literally that was the same conference where Juan was like, hey, you just defended like a second ago. Let's talk about Clemson. Like, I didn't get a chance to like even come down. No, not at all. But like, I remember like my mom just came up and bear hugged me. My mom's tiny. So I was just like, what is happening? But yeah, it does feel really...
Oh
yeah, my parents, they drove me to the airport. So that was they came and saw my little performance and drove me to the airport. It was great. But my mom, like, I don't know, besides like the handshake and the congratulations, you're like, okay, I signed a paper. What do I do now?
The paperwork is what gets me. Like the post, like, go here, sign this document. Make sure that you do this right. Like, it's very clerical.
Make sure it's formatted right. Yeah, it is so clerical. But I do remember having this feeling when I turned in the dissertation to the graduate school. Like, you know how you say the Hampton has a weather machine? Michigan must have had the same one because I'm out here, sun in the sky. You know how I feel. Like, I'm floating down the sidewalk.
Now that day, when I got my finished sticker from Florida, that day was great. I felt, but that day after I defended, like, I feel like I needed a couple days to process what just happened.
Sleep.
And I was not, I went straight from defense to going to pick up snacks for the kids and making sure we had the permission forms and stuff right. And we had to be there like at 6 o'clock the next morning. And it was just like,
Yeah, you needed to decompress
You didn't have a
everything
nap.
and process.
Gotta have
yeah.
a nap.
it was like a week until, at least a week until I was like back to my normal self. But I didn't get over that. Everybody get a PhD. Everybody got a PhD. Like for a year. For a year, I felt that way.
But that's your normal. That's the thing. Like, that's normal for you in a PhD program. Yes,
Yeah.
we're all here
He
for
was
PhDs.
Exactly 2% of the population, like part of the 2%.
Right.
Everybody I know
Right.
got PhDs. Why y'all keep saying you wrote? I was like, I got 12 friends with a PhD right now. And so it was just such a strange thing, but I'm all good now. I'm Dr.
glad.
Jones for the win.
Yeah.
I love it.
Great. Okay, so how
That's
can
it.
people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Dr. Jessica N. Jones on Instagram and on Twitter. Sometimes I don't be on there a lot. I post about nerd stuff, women's basketball, and yeah, that's about it.
Sounds good to me. I'm so glad you came.
Oh, this was great. It was good to catch up, Jessica. It's
Yeah,
been a
thank
minute.
you guys for having me. It's been since 2018, I think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
that I've had non-Instagram comment conversations with you guys.
I
Yeah,
feel
we
like
gotta
that's
fix
not true.
that.
Let me look at this. Let me look at this Instagram
Yeah.
right
You,
now.
you might be right. I don't want to look at it. It's going to make
Now,
me sad if
Kyla
it's
don't be
right.
doing stuff,
Yeah.
so that's a whole different scenario.
Me? I mean, we had a whole panderoni, so I mean,
Yeah, that's
I
true.
Shaved 2 years off of stuff.
But we may be seeing each other soon. Stay tuned.
See, we got stuff in
Yeah.
2022.
Stay
So it
tuned.
wasn't that long.
Evil Genius hand
I
rub
know.
We have messages from July of this year
on Instagram.
on Instagram.
Yeah, I said
said
non-Instagram.
Non-Instagram. See, I don't be talking
Yeah.
to people outside of social media.
I was gonna say that's how I talk to most people. So
Yeah.
I
We
talk to
doing pretty
Kyla on
good.
social media.
like we'll have a text going, and then we'll have Instagram messages going back and forth.
And y'all
Two
in the
different
same building.
topics.
Y'all be in the same building, Instagram.
Well, no, she's in a different building, but still, like,
Oh, right, because you're not you still try not to be one of us.
Listen, I feel attacked. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a different department now.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm good for you though, but
but her home is still in CISC. You got to come back and see the new building.
I heard
Nice.
there's a lot.
Yeah, I'll text you a video that I took of the inside when they let us in.
So it's not by the French fries anymore. This is definitely not.
Well, it's still
gotta
by
see
the
it.
French fries, but we're moving into it like in weeks. So it's like across the street from where the bookstore was, like that parking lot that used to be across the street. My lash is falling off.
So, So what's gonna be in the other building now?
The Hamilton Institute
Okay,
for
you
Ron
know what?
DeSantis.
We're going to, no. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Jones.
Oh
for
yeah,
joining
I
us
can't be.
today.
Yeah, I can't be on no conversation talking about none of that.
Appreciate you. You're wonderful. I love you. Okay. Bye, everyone.